There's a drive way back. It might be. It could be. It is. Holy cow. Welcome to another broadcast of Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Cub fans, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. I am always your host, Jeff Candid Cubs Brigauskis, and welcome to the offseason. I'm sure you're probably just like me and wondering what to do with all of your extra time now that the Cubs aren't playing. Yes, there's still playoff baseball, and that's what we're going to talk about today. As a Cubs fan, what team should you be rooting for this postseason? I put together a list and had a few Cub-esque strategies on how to get there and help you pick the most Cub-centric team to root for this offseason. But in the meantime, we've had a press conference from Jed Hoyer talking about the end of the season, and we know that the players have been sent home with off-season plans and all those things, just like Bricks Behind the Ivy has been working on its off-season plans. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have not yet, pound that like and subscribe button on YouTube. If you have not reviewed us wherever you listen to your podcast, please make sure you review and subscribe there as well. Tell a Cub fan friend. Tell all your friends. Check out Bricks Behind the Ivy today. So, Jed Hoyer had a quick press conference this week. Well, not quick, about 45 minutes talking about the Cubs offseason, and it did not instill a bunch of confidence in the Cub faithful as folks were really honing in on his commentary about players on this team needing to exceed projections, as there's likely a lot of things that need to be added to this current group in order for them to compete for a playoff spot and join the tournament like their brethren here in October. So we're not going to harp on that. I think there's been so much done, so much said about the Jed Hoyer presser. If you have not seen it, there are clips all over the internet, especially a very specific clip about what Jed Hoyer said about players playing beyond their projection in response to folks kind of trying to push towards what the budget's going to be in this offseason. And I think this is not our first Jed Hoyer offseason. It's, our third or fourth Jed Hoyer offseason, and he doesn't really give a lot of information in these press conferences. I will say I listened to Sahada Sharma and Patrick Mooney's episode on Northside Territory, which I definitely think you should check out. They picked up something that I thought I was picking up on, so I felt kind of validated, and I felt like the energy was pretty low from Jed. Not saying that Jed is generally this high energy guy, but I thought there was no buzzword. It wasn't the our offense broke Theo Epstein type of situation, but it did not feel like there was a ton of energy or excitement. Maybe they're very, very aware of the changes that they need to make, and also maybe they're just tired, but it definitely came through. It wasn't a Jed Hoyer performance that I think necessarily folks are going to feel confidence about, feel like that this offseason is going to go differently, but it happened, it's over, and now we sit and wait for little tiny rumblings to come out each and every week as we wait for the other teams who were constructible enough to keep playing, get to keep playing, and we'll wait for them to be done probably closer till November. So, Bricks Behind the Ivy offseason as we wrap up season 1 of this awesome show. We are so close to 500 subscribers on YouTube, so make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and sharing like gangbusters as we try to grow this thing. But the offseason is going to be a time for Cub fan education. We're going to do a few segments on Cubstory, which is Cub history, in which we talk about different decades of the team to try to inform casuals and fans that have been around about the big moments in Cubs history, starting from the very beginning of when the Cubs were founded and started all the way up to present day. So please look forward to those segments as we wait breaking news this offseason. Next week, we are going to have a Cubs season in review. Pat Erickson is going to join me as we look back at the grades that we gave at mid-year for the Cubs, what we projected them to be this season, see how far off we were in our projections, and talk about final grades for the starting staff, bullpen, offense, and defense. So come check that out this week. And thank you, as always, to our wonderful sponsors, Wrigleyville Sports, located adjacent to Wrigleyville, the greatest sports store in the entire world, founded in 1990. You can get your Cubs stuff there. You can get, now that's the off-season, your Bear stuff there. And hey, want to save a few dollars? Use code IV10. Yes, that's code IV10 to save 10% on your order at checkout. So thank you again, Wrigleyville Sports, for being such a great sponsor. And as always, thank you so much to Yaggy Road Roasting Company. Check out that link in our description and check out their coffee. It's delicious. Another fellow Valpo alumni helping out another Valpo alum. So thank you so much, and happy homecoming to all the Valpo alum out there who celebrated this past weekend. So it wouldn't be a Bricks Behind the Ivy episode if we didn't have a visit from our friend Harry Caray, who graces us with another Deep Thoughts with Harry Caray. Thanks so much, Harry. Take it away.
Holy cow! Hey, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to another Deep Thoughts with yours truly, Harry. Thanks for sending it on over, Jeff, to the old Wrigley Fire Bar and Grill. Needless to say, I'm drowning my sorrows down here. What could have been, what should have been, but boy, did we fall short. But you know what, Cub fan? The Cubs will thrive in 25. Oh boy, oh boy. Hey, who's smoking the cigar? Put it out there. Anyway, you know, before we get to the meat and potatoes of this broadcast, did anybody listen to Jed Hoyer's press conference the other day? I don't know what this guy's thinking. I know he's got the best intentions of the ball club, but no big signings. He's not going to go after the big names, supposedly, you know, and the future's bright with what they've got. He feels like they've got it there. You know, buddy, I don't know. You're smoking the heebity-jeebity? Come on. We got to get to bed. Get Soto, get somebody. We need a big bopper in the lineup, I got to tell you. But what really got me is he said that the swoon in hitting was due to the weather. What are you, Tom Skilling? Come on. We all know what the problem is, but hopefully we're going to fix that come the off season. But anyway, I want to send a special salute to the man, the myth, the professor. That's right, everybody. Good old Kyle Hendricks. Boy, what a career this guy had, you know. The last nugget from our glorious season of 2016. You know, you had a little bit of a rough year this year, but, you know, back on the 28th of September, boy, oh boy, you know, he had a great outing against Cincinnati. You know, it was a 3-0 loss, but how can you go out on top with 7 1/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 2 Ks. I mean, that's a great send-off at old Ball Yard at 1060 West Addison. I mean, this guy's been everything to the ball club. You know, career 276 games. He's 97 and 81. Career 368 ERA. Over 1,580 innings pitched with over 1,200 strikeouts in his career. Back in 2012, you know, we traded Ryan Dempster, and, you know, Demp likes to imitate me. Boy, oh boy, Demp, I love you, but, ooh, you can't do that. But we traded Demp away to get Christian Villanueva. You know, spelled backwards as Avanuel Live. But we got Villanueva, and then we got this kid, Kyle Hendricks, who eventually in 14 made his major league debut. And boy, oh boy, I mean, the guy ranks 7th in the team history in strikeouts, 10th in starts, 17th in victories, 4 seasons of at least 20 games pitched. The guy was 3rd in the Cy Young in 16. Oh, and on and on and on and on. But, you know, it's good to be ashamed to see him go. So, Kyle, for all you do, this brew's for you. You know, a double sip for the old professor, boy, oh boy. It's gonna be weird not seeing you at the ball yard, always friendly with the kids and everything. You know, hold on a second. He signed a ball for me. Check that out. He was even kind enough to put Game 7 starter for the World Series champs, Kyle, class act, through and through. Oh boy, I think this guy's got a future in coaching somehow, some way. They don't call him the professor for nothing. Oh boy, but that's your poll question for this week's podcast is two things. One, give me your best memory of Kyle Hendricks in a Cubby uniform. And two, what do you think the old ball club's going to do in the offseason? I know what I'm going to do in the offseason. Very good, but that's going to do it from here. I'm going to watch a little playoff baseball, and you know what's coming? Here come the Hawks, the mighty Black Hawks. I hope it's not going to be a long winter. We got about 160 days to go till the old ball yard's open. So from all of us here at the Wrigley Fire Bar and Grill, it's Harry Caray sending it back to Jeff. And so long, everybody. Holy cow!
Thank you, Harry, for just another awesome deep thoughts. Kyle Hendricks potentially made his final start as a Chicago Cub this past week, and I'm still pretty emotional about it. It is time potentially for him not to be a Cub anymore. I know he intends to pitch in 2025, but if the Cubs are making steps to make this roster better in 2025, beyond a depth type of contract, Kyle Hendricks just cannot be penciled into this rotation. I believe that he might still have something in there. His pitchability, his way of being able to adjust this game has been there, but it's just not a risk an organization like the Cubs should take. And it's really, 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 really tough for me to say that as being probably one of the biggest Kyle Hendricks homers in the whole world and a huge fan of the man. I hope Kyle returns in some capacity to this organization and contributes to the front office after his pitching days are done. It's going to be extremely difficult to see him wear another uniform at any point in his career. I wish him all the best. So does everybody here at Bricks Behind the Ivy. There have been few better to wear the Cubs uniform than Kyle Hendricks. Thank you, Kyle, for everything you have done for the Cubs, including pitching the two biggest games in the history of this team. NLCS Game 6 2016, and of course starting Game 7 of the 2016 World Series. So speaking of World Series, the MLB playoffs are here. We've gone through the wild card round, and our friends up north have already been bounced by the extremely hot and fun, in some ways, Mets. But now that those rounds are over, kind of looked at the final 8 teams in the playoffs and tried to figure out who should Cub fans root for? What is the Cub interest in each one of these teams? And, I think there were a number of things. If you are watching this podcast or if you are consuming baseball this time of year, it's likely that you are a huge baseball fan. And at minimum, you're a huge Cubs fan. And there is a majority of your life that you've spent with the Cubs not in the playoffs. I think that's one thing as fans that is a little bit hard to admit, is that since the 2015 upswing, prior to that, there were just so few times in which the Cubs made the playoffs. I mean, we're looking at 2007, 2008, and then we had 2003 in there, 1998, and then we're sliding all the way back to 1989 and 1984. And besides that, you had to find a different team to root for if you wanted to continue to watch baseball in October, which is something growing up watching this team I did. I found a new team, and there was the ex-Cub factor, like how many players were on the team that used to play for the Cubs at any point in their career, and used to be a bunch of mumbo-jumbo about the team that had the most ex-Cubs was going to lose the World Series or lose in the playoffs because they were also cursed, and there were just different players I learned to like because I had to become a fan of the larger game in order to continue to watch the sport I loved going into October. So I looked at the 8 final teams in this year's playoffs and ranked them on 3 to 4 things. Futility index. I looked at the length of time it had been since the team had either won a pennant or won the World Series or both. I looked at the ex-Cub factor because I couldn't help. I looked to see how many players on the team used to be on the Cubs at some point in their career. And then I used a personal ranking of what I called watchability, which, if there's a fun player in there, a superstar, the style of play, the story, any unique celebrations, I looked at those things as well. And I wrote an article for Northside Baseball. I would go check it out, of the ranking of all 8 teams, and number 8 will not surprise you if you're a true Cubs fan. But I wanted to talk about the top 3 teams you should be rooting for today. If you want the other 5, click the link in my bio for that Northside Baseball article. But the top 3 teams Cub fans should be rooting for this postseason. Number 3, hard to say, but the New York Yankees. Yes, I did put the Yankees on this list, and I'm not gonna lie, it did surprise me based on their rankings. It has been a number of years since this team has won the World Series, and they won their last pennant in the same year. Was the 2009 Yankees won the pennant, and the 2009 Yankees won the World Series. Now, they're not exactly starving for World Series rings over there, considering that they would need literally an extra hand or an extra hand and a half to carry all of their World Series rings, even if they covered their toes. But it has been for them a long time since they've won the pennant, and for a team that is known for spending large amounts of money to make sure that they're one of the better teams in a very now competitive AL East, this is a long drought for Yankees fans, and it's something that they're probably not that used to. They did search up this list because they currently have 4 ex-Cubs and 1 future Cub in Juan Soto. Yeah, I'm pausing because I figured you're laughing at me for saying that Juan Soto is going to be a future Cub. But, hey, it could happen. Yeah, I know. I'm being ridiculous. But they do have 4 ex-Cubs. They have Marcus Stroman on the team, Anthony Rizzo, who is not playing because of some injured fingers. They have Scotty Effross, who has been in the minors and battling back from an injury the year prior as well. And Gleyber Torres. He did start in the Cubs farm system, and he was traded over there for a very important piece in the 2016 World Series run, Aroldis Chapman. So the Yankees are an interesting team if you're looking to watch guys that are Cubs adjacent, hoping that they go far enough that you can see Anthony Rizzo kind of take the reins over at first base again and root for him to get another ring, because Anthony Rizzo is one of the all-time great Cubs. And yeah, I think the one thing that I would rank this team pretty low on is their watchability. And let me elaborate. The Yankees were one of the top teams in walks and home runs this year, and, a top 5 team in OPS. But, I think that there is kind of a feast or famine approach to that offense when you're walking a lot and you're getting a lot of home runs. And there was a lot of Cub teams, especially towards the end of their true window, that were high walk teams with a lot of slug. And if the slug goes away for a short series, because we're now down to small sample sizes for these teams, then that type of offense can be very hard to watch, because usually it can slide into the strikeout territory, or if the ball's not leaving the yard, they are flying out a lot and leaving a lot of men on base because of walks. So I rank them a little bit lower on the watchability, just because of that, because of the 2 true outcomes. If you're looking for a team that's going to kind of push the ball in different situations and do different things with the baseball besides hit home runs, this might not be the team for you. But it is hard not to just stare in awe at Aaron Judge and Juan Soto in the middle of that lineup, 2 of the best to do it at the plate in the game today. And watching them hit back-to-back in a lineup is pretty damn terrifying for any opponent to have to face them. So I have them ranked as the number 3 team that Cubs should root for. Number 2, San Diego Padres. They do have a number of ex-Cubs on here, including Bad News himself, Mr. Yu Darvish, who the Cubs traded away for some salary relief in exchange for 4 extremely young prospects, which Owen Casey has panned out a little bit for the Cubs, and we're still waiting to see him make his major league debut. Another ex-top Cub prospect, Dylan Cease, who was traded away for Jose Quintana, and everyone's still very, very happy about that. AJ Preller is one of the more interesting GMs in the game. He seems to have just a really good ability of building a farm system and using those chips to aggressively attack addressing the major league roster. And he also has known, especially with Juan Soto and acquiring and then once again trading, when he's lost a battle in regards to a contract or when he thinks he should move something in order to get something he can get in return. And that has been super impressive. Got Michael King, who's been a really, really good piece to their rotation in that Juan Soto deal, and their offense hasn't missed a beat since Juan Soto has left, as Jackson Merrill, one of the top candidates for Rookie of the Year this year, has not missed a beat since he made the team on opening day, has put up some really solid numbers. So the Cub connection here to me is that underdog connection. The Padres are the oldest franchise without a World Series, meaning they were founded in 1969 and have not won a World Series since the team has been founded. So it's got a little bit of that, like underdog, never won a World Series. The drought's getting pretty long, very similar to the Cubs. It's very easy to root for. I'm a huge fan of those San Diego City connects, so I think that's part of the watchability for me. Manny Machado almost was a White Sox to a lot of people because they signed his brother-in-law over on the south side, but he decided to go against family and sign with the San Diego Padres. And the last time the Padres won a pennant was when Sweet Swinging Tony Gwynn was still around, one of the greatest hitters to ever do it. Spraying baseballs all over the field. I remember that World Series in 1998. But I think this is a fun team to watch. They hit the ball everywhere. They have an extremely good contact-oriented team at times, and they have some thunder in the middle with Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. And with Luis Arias, now the only player to have won the batting title with 3 different teams, they're a fun offense to watch. And looking at, Yu Darvish and Dylan Cease and, Michael King at the top of that rotation and them facing the Dodgers, it will be super fun to see what they can do in the postseason. And that brings us to number 1. The number 1 team you should be rooting for as a Cubs fan is the Detroit Tigers. Their roster is young. There was a graphic I saw on Twitter this past weekend comparing the age of their entire starting roster right now to the 2016 Chicago Cubs, and they were, age for age or younger in some cases in the position players. They haven't won a championship since 1984, and since they've left Wrigley, where the Cubs took 2 of 3, they've played excellent baseball, which ironically seemed to coincide with, unfortunately, Javier Baez being moved to the IL, who's out for the rest of the year and will not be seen in postseason play. He has been struggling since he left the Cubs, and there are just so many videos of his strikeouts where I just don't understand why anyone will ever throw Javier Baez a strike ever again. And it's truly unfortunate because I'm not going to sit here and argue that Javier Baez had the world's best plate approach, but the guy did seem to find a way to put together really, really hot stretches, and that seems to have completely disappeared. It's just unfortunate. Just never thought that he would have the drop off that he has had in the major leagues, and that is a really, really tough contract now in hindsight for the Detroit Tigers. One of my favorite things that the Tigers do, they went on one heck of a run from August till the end of the year, one that the Cubs needed to go on to make the playoffs. The Tigers actually achieved that, so it kind of points out that it is possible to go on these runs, which is why, while calling for prospects and things like that, the Cubs were, fighting the good fight and trying to see if the ball would bounce their way, quite literally. And, unfortunately, just another 83-win season. But the Tigers have been roaring, pun intended. And one of my favorite things in the whole world, I grew up with lots of Little Caesars pizza in my life. My family would go grocery shopping, and there used to be like a Little Caesars inside of the Kmart. I remember getting pizza with my dad and my brother while my mom would finish grocery shopping, and sometimes we would be there like after church. And that was just one of the biggest treats. It was like the pizza at every kid's birthday party. So just lots of nostalgia for me. And Little Caesars is based out of Detroit, and they're a big sponsor over with the Tigers. And every time they hit a home run, they have a Little Caesars pizza spike that they carry around in the dugout. So huge fan of that. But the last thing on watchability, their rotation is fronted by Tarek Skubal, which a lot of Cub fans over the years, including a friend of the pod and co-founder of the pod, Mr. Sean Chapin, Hot Stove Cubbies, had looked for the Cubs to try to trade for this guy when he was not healthy and, not an immediate part of the Tigers' rotation future. But he won the MLB or the American League Triple Crown this year with wins, ERA, and strikeouts. He was the best pitcher in the American League, and as often as they can pitch this guy in the playoffs, they're likely going to. The guy is dirty, really, really good pitches, high velocity, great changeup, great sweeper, strikeouts. He is fun to watch pitch. So I really want them to wear that glass slipper all the way to holding the Commissioner's Trophy at the end of the season. Who do you think is going to win in the playoffs? Make a note in the comment who you're rooting for this postseason, or just add some comments of your frustration of the Cubs not being here. Well, that's all we have for Bricks Behind the Ivy today. Thank you so much again for listening to another episode. Make sure you're checking out Wrigleyville Sports for all of your Cubs or Chicago sports team needs, and using that coupon code to get your discount. Get your Yaggy Road Roasting Company coffee today, and stay tuned as we announce the start of our official Patreon page this week. So stay tuned for details. Hit that subscribe button, comment and review, and share our podcast. We'll see you next week. Until then, go Cubs, I guess. They're not playing right now, but go Cubs! All right, see you guys next week.